Ayan first saw Arisha on a crisp autumn afternoon when the sun was beginning its slow descent, scattering golden light across the university courtyard, illuminating the swirls of fallen leaves that danced restlessly across the pavement as if celebrating the arrival of the season. She stood near the large library window, her slender fingers resting gently on the glass, her eyes distant yet profoundly present, as though she were listening to a story only the outside world could tell. And in that moment, Ayan felt the strangest pull inside his chest, an unexplainable tightening that made him pause mid-step, drawn to the quiet girl whose stillness seemed to carry entire universes inside it. She looked like someone carved from the softest pieces of the sky, someone who didn't need words to be noticed, someone whose silence sang louder than noise ever could. Days passed, but the image of her near the window lingered in his mind like a bookmark in an unread book, a reminder that some people leave impressions long before they speak, or in this case, without speaking at all. Every time he walked through campus, his eyes involuntarily searched for her, near the cafeteria window where the sunlight formed amber halos, beneath the jacaranda tree where purple petals lay scattered like confetti from some long-forgotten celebration, in the art building corridor where the air always smelled faintly of paint and turpentine. She was always quiet, always alone, always tucked into corners as though the world was too loud for someone made of soft echoes. Ayan found himself noticing things he had never paid attention to before. The way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she was deep in thought, the gentle crease between her brows when she sketched something intensely, the subtle tap of her foot when she was lost in her own imagination. He admired her from afar, feeling an inexplicable connection to her silence, to her invisible voice, to the unspoken language her presence carried. Then, one afternoon behind the arts building, fate finally gave him the courage he lacked. He found her sitting alone on a weathered bench, sketchbook balanced on her knees, the breeze lifting a few strands of her hair as she sketched with delicate concentration. Ayan approached slowly, clearing his throat softly so as not to startle her. She lifted her gaze, her eyes deep and quietly observant, not frightened, just curious. He introduced himself, his voice awkward but earnest. And when she didn't reply, she simply wrote her name in the corner of her sketchbook with handwriting so soft it looked like a whisper. Only then did he realize she didn't speak. Yet something inside him didn't break or hesitate. Instead, it settled with the certainty that her silence didn't make her incomplete. It made her extraordinary. He didn't ask why she didn't speak because he sensed that silence wasn't a barrier for her but a sanctuary. He sat beside her, not too close, not too far, and she didn't move away, which felt like a quiet invitation. From that day on, a silent friendship began to bloom. Fragile at first, delicate as morning dew, built on shared glances, gentle smiles, and the unspoken comfort of simply existing beside each other. She communicated through drawings, vivid, expressive sketches that carried more emotion than spoken sentences. She once showed him a drawing of two figures sitting on a bench. One was staring straight ahead, lost in thought, while the other was turning slightly, watching the first with soft curiosity. Ayan recognized it instantly. It was them. When he asked if he really looked at her that way, she tapped her pencil once on the paper, a small gesture that said everything. Yes, each day, he grew more drawn to her, learning to read the subtle shifts in her eyes, the quiet ways she said more than words ever could. But he didn't know the reason behind her silence until a rainy afternoon when she placed her notebook gently on his lap, her handwriting trembling slightly as she wrote that she hadn't always been silent. Once she had laughed loudly, argued, told stories, sang songs, lived freely until the day her mother died suddenly 2 years earlier, leaving her broken in a way that stole her voice, not from her throat but from her soul. Ayan felt a painful ache bloom inside him, not of pity but of deep empathy, and without thinking, he reached out to wipe the tears slipping down her cheek, a gesture she didn't flinch away from. If anything, she leaned into it slightly, like someone who had been cold for too long and was finally feeling warmth again. After that, their bond deepened. He brought her tiny gifts, flowers, her favorite tea, new sketching pencils each time, making her eyes brighten a little more. She started smiling more, small and shy, but sincere. He realized slowly, gradually, tenderly, that he was falling in love with her, not with her silence, but with the girl inside it, the girl who communicated with her eyes, her drawings, her gestures, her quiet strength. Then came the day everything changed. Arisha wrote that her father wanted to move to another city in a month, believing a fresh start might help her recover. Ayan felt the world twist painfully in his chest. How could life bring her into his world only to take her away so soon? He tried to stay normal, but she sensed the heaviness in him. She stopped him one day by gently grabbing his sleeve, an anxious look in her eyes, and wrote asking if he was upset with her. Never, he told her softly, and then confessed that the thought of losing her terrified him. Under the jacaranda tree that evening, as dusk painted the sky in shades of lavender and gold, he finally told her everything: how she had changed him, healed parts of him he didn't know were wounded, filled his days with meaning, and that he loved her deeply, quietly, completely. Arisha stood frozen for a moment, her notebook slipping from her trembling hands as her lips parted. And then something miraculous happened. She whispered his name, Ayan, so faintly it was almost lost to the wind. Yet it hit him like thunder, like a world reborn. It was the first word she had spoken in years, and she had chosen him. She tried to say more, but her voice broke under the weight of emotion. So she pressed her forehead to his, letting her silence envelop them both. She didn't recover her full voice instantly, but she began therapy, whispering tiny words each day, her confidence slowly growing as she realized she had something worth speaking for. Even after she moved to another city, she called him every night, whispering his name, practicing little sentences, letting her voice find its way back to life. Their love grew across the distance, resilient and tender. 1 year later, she returned for a visit, her voice still soft but steady, her heart stronger than ever, and Ayan led her back to the jacaranda tree, where he knelt with trembling hands and asked to spend his life understanding her silence and hearing her voice. She whispered yes, her voice trembling but sure, and he slipped the ring onto her finger as she leaned into his arms. Her silence no longer a wound but a warm promise, a gentle truth, a testament to healing. Their love, born from silence, strengthened by understanding, and made eternal through patience, became proof that some love stories are written not in words but in the spaces between them, in gazes that hold entire conversations, in gestures that soothe where language fails, in quiet moments that echo louder than noise, because sometimes the loudest I love you is the one spoken without sound, the one understood by the heart long before it reaches the lips, the one carried in a silence that once wounded but now heals, a silence that once hid pain but now reveals love, a silence that once broke her but now binds them forever, the silence that said I love you,